This is the American Sentinel, and my name is Uncle Patty Ramsey. I said, this is the American Sentinel, and my name is Patty Ramsey. Can you hear me now? I said this is the American Sentinel, and my name is Patty Ramsey, and we have a great show for you this Tuesday afternoon, broadcasting out of the Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee, the heart of the Scots-Irish Rebellion, the place where free men have free thoughts and represent America in our hearts, freedom in our souls, and fight in our guts. And you are welcome to be with me on this glorious afternoon. You are welcome to join me in this spirit of 1776, and you are willing and able and welcome to take place in the Second American Revolution. It is a revolution for your mind. It is a revolution for your thoughts. It is a revolution for your soul. As we get settled in here today, I know that many of my viewers love playing this little hide-and-go-seek, I spy, can you spy, peekaboo system that we see on the bookshelf behind me. So I started playing along with the comments. I started getting more into the whole Twitter sphere, the whole Instagram. What is Uncle Patty going to have behind him today? What is Uncle Patty going to have on the bookshelf today? And so today I'm playing along. I'm playing a little game with you guys. Hidden in the bookshelf there are 3 firearms, 3 pistols. Can you see the 3 firearms? One is probably out in the open. The other 2 are hidden quite well. And can you tell me, just off of what little bit you see of all of them, what type of firearms they are? 3 firearms hidden in the bookshelf. Some are hidden, some are in the plane. But there's one hidden, and there's just a little peekaboo, a little piece of it hidden, sticking out for you to recognize what it is. And I wonder if there are any gun enthusiasts among you who can tell me what kind of gun that is sticking out there, just on what you see. Again, this is the American Sentinel. My name is Patty Ramsey, and today we are talking about the Civil War that could come into America. The Civil War that could consume this country. And it seems like everybody's so anxious for it. It seems like I'm in 1863 and the Confederates are riling the rabble. It feels like I'm in 1774-ish and the sentiment is growing. And I sometimes feel like Sam Houston. When people think of Sam Houston, they think of Texas, they think of Houston, they think of that great state in the South. But Sam Houston was not a Texan. Most people don't even know that. Sam Houston was a Scots-Irish man like me from the hills of Tennessee. Sam Houston was an Appalachian man who only went to Texas as a volunteer and as a pioneer to help Texas out to become what it is today. They called him Blackbird. Santa Anna, the great general who he fought and defeated at the Alamo, the Mexican general who tried to reclaim that land, they called him Blackbird because that's what the Indians called him. That's the name that he was given by the Cherokee Indians, who were Indians Native Americans, I should say, that are native only to the Southeast America region. And most people don't know this, but Sam Houston was actually married to a Cherokee woman and adopted in, as a Scots-Irish man, adopted into the Cherokee civilization, the Cherokee nation. They loved him. They called him Blackbird. He was a school teacher, an industrialist, and a carpenter, and all kinds of things, and just a very intelligent man. Became the president of the first president of the Republic of Texas. He became, of course, the governor of Texas. But he had been all over the country. And his parents had been all over the world, basically. I mean, his lineage had come from Scotland and Ireland and England, and he knew industry. He knew manufacturing. And when everybody in Texas was saying, hey, we want a revolution, we want a civil war, we want to go to war against the North, Sam Houston was saying, you guys are stupid. You don't know what you're getting into. You have this taste of victory in your mouth that you're reading about, that you're hearing about from the Revolutionary War, from the War of 1812. And he even said, I wish my old friend Andrew Jackson was here, this great war general, was here to talk you out of this. Because he knew what was going to come. He said, you'll taste, because you're more belligerent, because you're more violent, because you're more acclimated to warfare and outdoorsiness and survival and firearms than the northern people are. You'll feel victory at first. But because they have a constant import of immigrants, of Irish immigrants, and to a lesser extent German and Italian at that time, but because they have a constant influx of Irish immigrants into New York and Boston and Chicago, and because all these cities are filled with manufacturing, you won't be able to beat them past 2 years. If you don't realize victory within... This is what Sam Houston said. He said, if you don't realize victory within 18 months, you won't realize victory at all. They'll out-manufacture you. And it's like Sun Tzu said in The Art of War. A ration, a wagon cart of your enemy's rations is worth 6 of your own. Because not only have you restocked your own ranks, you have deprived them of theirs. So deprivation of resources is a mechanism of war, one of the greatest mechanisms of war. If we see what's going on in Gaza today, we see that the greatest deprivation of resource is food and water and commodities and utilities. And they are literally doing catastrophic damage to their enemy, who is an unarmed civic population for the most part, who they're calling Hamas. But deprivation of resources is what Sam Houston had in mind, as I delineate from my conversation a little bit. But I say that only to say that I feel like Sam Houston. I feel like Sam Houston in that I don't want a civil war to come. I really don't. I like America. I like it how it is. Not necessarily how it is now, but how it was when I was a kid, with white picket fences, with Irish neighborhoods and Italian neighborhoods. And you go into the Italian neighborhoods and you can smell the garlic and the pasta in the air. You go into the Irish neighborhoods, you can hear the wives and husbands fighting. There's baseball on the street, there's football. Every Saturday morning I can smell. If you ask me to imagine what a Saturday morning smells like in America, I can smell cut grass, cut wet grass, and the sound of football helmets clanking together. Little league football helmets clanking together. But you got to be home in time to watch your favorite college football team. You got to be home in time to watch the Vols or the Georgia Dogs or Auburn War Eagle or Go Tigers, whoever you may be rooting for. And I miss that America. I want that America. And when Civil War happens, all that goes away. When Civil War happens, all that is no more. Civil War is horrible. And you don't want it. And I'm playing this psychedelic cowboy music today because I feel like the spirit of Texas is in me. I feel like the spirit of Texas is in me today. I spent a lot of time down in Texas. San Marcos, Austin, all that area. That Texas Highland area, they call it down there. And I feel that American revolutionary spirit in me. But I don't want a revolutionary war. I don't want that for us. I don't want that for our kin. I don't want that for our people. I don't want to see a second civil war in this country, especially when we can have peaceful dialogue. All we need to do is remove the people that don't belong here and suppress the people who won't shut the fuck up about doing radical communism. I was talking to a good friend of mine named Michael Wolf. And I said, both he and I come from an engineering background. And in engineering and in mathematics, we have a law that's called the Pareto law that says, Vilfredo Pareto, an Italian economist, said that 80% of your problems can be solved by solving 20% of your occurrences. Which means if you have a lineage of problems or a plethora of problems, let's just say with our national society, we have transgenderism in our schools. We have gay marches down our streets. We have school shooters. We have racial injustice where white people are being stabbed on subway carts, where people like Carmelo Anthony are stabbing white children at football games, and judges do nothing about it. We have talks of civil war, and you could try to solve all of those problems altogether, or you could use Vilfredo Pareto's law of 80-20, which means if you solve the 20% of occurrences, all 80% of your problems will fall into order. Now, what does that mean? That means that we have two major problems. We live in a Christless existence. We have turned our back on our history and our God and our lineage and our heritage and replaced it with something more secular, more new, more sexy. But it's no good. If we put God back in the schools, back in the government, and become a Christian country again, and we expelled the liberal Jewish thought that's consumed our country, the AIPAC money, the communist Eastern Revolution that's consumed our country, you solve those two problems, everything else will go away. That's Vilfredo Pareto's law of 80-20. If I replace this secularism, this nonsensical bullshit that's leading our country down a rabbit hole that we don't want to go down, if I replace that with Christianity, if I replace this new AIPAC Jewish money that's been shoved through our court system as an extension of the First Amendment, they have passed a law that says that they can give as much money as they want to politicians because they are expressing themselves financially. And to express themselves financially is their First Amendment. If we get rid of those two things, everything else will fall into place. You have God in the classrooms. Nobody wants to shoot up the classrooms. You have Christianity and a national sovereignty, a national togetherness. Then we start to see each other as a social, cohesive, bonded unit. It's us against the world. We need to either be better in science, better in the arms race, better in manufacturing, better in technology. But we don't do that. We allow this infection to come in like a disease, like a parasite, like a bubonic plague, to infect our souls and our minds and our people, and delineate our youth from what they should be doing, and sacrifice our children at the altar of Planned Parenthood and abortion, and sacrifice the testicles of our young men at the thought of transgenderism and gender identity diversion. We can't do it anymore. We have to use Vilfredo Pareto's law to solve the 80-20%, the 80%, 20%. Solve the top two problems, the other 8 will fall in line. This is the American Sentinel. My name is Patty Ramsey. And tonight, we are talking about what many people believe is a coming civil war that seems almost inevitable. If civil war comes, which side will you be on? You like to hope that you'll be on the winning side. But where will you really be when that civil war comes? Let's break some things down here on the program tonight. A while back, there were two brothers. You may have known them from the Pizzagate scandals, Leon Podesta and John Podesta. We know these people as international perverts, child sacrificers, allegedly. Don't sue me. But they were in the Pizzagate emails. They were in there with Obama ordering $40,000 worth of hot dogs. They did have pictures of paintings of child abuse hanging up as glorified portraits in their homes and in their mansions. They were known to be part of James Alefantis' pedophile Pizzagate ring that was exposed. But the Podesta plan and the Western alliance that came out of the Podesta plan is a greater projection of the Hegelian dialectic at large. Now, I go over what the Hegelian dialectic is all the time on this program, and I could teach a master's degree, probably a PhD degree, class in it, but I don't want to go over that today because we don't have the time. I want you to go back into my old programs and really dive into who Hegel was, how he was a court Jew, and what a court Jew was in a Christian autocracy or a monarchy during the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. And how the court Jews spread the power throughout the rest of international Jewry by lending and usury and finance and those kinds of things. But I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm not going to get into Hegel and the true disposition of the Hegelian dialectic. What I say is all that is, what I mean to say when I say all that is we need to look into the Podesta plan. And of course, when we see the Podesta plan, we see the elections, the presidents, the environments, the manufacturing. But there's more than that. There's something called the Western Alliance. And you start to see this kind of subliminal messaging coming out in all the TV shows, all the movies, all the things that are being pushed to our youth as far as media and broadcasting. And the Podesta plan is this civil war that he projects to happen. He actually projected it to happen around 2017, 18, and 19. And he thought that it was inevitable that Trump was going to win the 2020 election. Now, when COVID hit, that changed everything. They could use mail-in ballots, and they didn't have to do this. But we all remember when Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and people like that were saying, he's going to steal the election, Trump's going to steal the election in 2020, and that's okay because we'll have our own election. We'll use the military to kick him out of office because he's going to cheat. And we'll have our own inauguration at a different time and at a different place. That was all part of the Podesta plan. The plan to start and kick off the Second Civil War and replace the president of the United States of America and inaugurate their own president somewhere else. Now, they were talking amongst themselves. They were saying Los Angeles or Denver, where the biggest intelligence base in the world is, not too far from the Air Force Academy there in Colorado. They were saying, that they were going to have their own president and then use the military on the Western Front to then come in and take... And by the way, they've scrubbed a lot of this from the internet, but you can still look it up. Alex Jones, even though I disagree with him on a lot, he has been a real benefit to us as far as what he's archived and what he's kept alive on InfoWars. And you can go back and see all these things. They said these things live on TV. They said these things live during interviews. And now we're starting to see this stuff kick off. We're starting to see all this stuff come to fruition. We're starting to see Charlie Kirk get murdered and people celebrate. Charlie Kirk, when he was alive, he said, the way people act during death gives you a lot of insight into who they are and how evil they are. And that's the truth. When Charlie Kirk died, we started seeing all the people we know, the leftists, started celebrating. They were saying, yay, fuck him, all this kind of stuff. And they were celebrating, they were having Charlie Kirk death parties. And we see the people like Irina Zaruska being stabbed on the subway and Austin Metcalf being stabbed in the heart at football games. And we're starting to see people who have hurt and murdered young white children, black people who have murdered young white children out of nothing more than racial hate for white people. And liberal Soros-appointed district attorneys, they won't prosecute them. They'll say, we can't prosecute them because they're insane. We can't and prosecute them because they don't understand what they've done. They're not fit to stand trial. And if they do stand trial, some Jewish-backed fucking liberal judge says, well, this person didn't have the best growing up, so we're going to give them a slap on the wrist and give them 10 years, and then they're going to do parole and probation and get out in 7. Remember what Alexander Solzhenitsyn said in the book The Gulag Archipelago about the takeover of the Soviet Union, the takeover of Russia by the communist Jews when he was growing up. He said, the first wave of propaganda is to convince you, the second wave is to demoralize you, and the third wave is to break you. We're on the second wave of propaganda here. The boomers bought into all this shit about Schindler's List and diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we're the greatest generation. We had the Civil Rights Act. We did the best. We integrated. That was all the first wave of propaganda. Now, us people now who see our children murdered, who see young white girls stabbed in the neck on the subways, we're in the second wave of propaganda. It's just here to demoralize us. When we see judges going after our politicians like Judge Ershon in the Southern District of Manhattan go after Trump. When we start to see judges letting people go who have killed white children because they were white, because now the courts have now found them insane 10 years later, that's to insult you. That's to break you down. That's to make you mad. That is to make you mad. Do you understand now? Are you starting to get it now? That what they are doing is to break you. That's why Charlie Kirk was murdered. That's why Irina Zaruska was killed and allowed to go this way. And it reminds me of what happened with Timothy McVeigh, right? Think about this. Some of you are old enough to remember back to the 90s, and some of you are going to have to draw on historical documents and references. But what happened first? Ruby Ridge happened. What happened first? Waco, Texas happened. Innocent right-wing people with their own beliefs, not hurting anybody, forming their own communities, some based on race, some based on religion, were swatted, raided, and murdered for no real reason other than that the government felt like they were losing control. And then all of a sudden, this MK Ultra program guy named Timothy McVeigh, whose backstory doesn't quite check out, whose history doesn't quite check out, detonates the biggest bomb in U.S. history at Oklahoma City. And now everybody who looks like us, right-wing, patriot, militia, gun-toting Republicans, we look like terrorists. We look like the bad guys. Don't get around that guy. He could be like another Timothy McVeigh. Don't join that Michigan militia group. That could be another Timothy McVeigh. And that is the Hegelian dialectic. That is what they plan to do. Be the solution to the problem you create. They created the problems at Ruby Ridge. They created the problems at Waco, Texas with Randy Weaver. And David Koresh. When they murdered all those children and burnt them alive. They didn't shoot all those children. You can see the videos in Waco, Texas. They burnt those children in the sanctuary of that church to death. Sizzled them and then smiled. Smiled holding their weapons. Look up the pictures. And the people that did that, Biden tried to appoint as the leader, the chief leader of the ATF that didn't come and confiscate your guns. That's why Soros-backed accelerationist district attorneys are allowing white girls, white kids, and white people to be murdered and then smiling in the victim's face. They're smiling in your face when this happens. That's even if they're prosecuted. Most of the time, like I say, they're not even prosecuted. And if they are prosecuted, they're prosecuted by some liberal Jewish judge, like the one whose house got set on fire yesterday in South Carolina. Who knows what the story behind that is? I'm sure that's just more false flag, old Reichstag behavior to try to blame people like you and me. But they're given light sentences, and they're smiling in your face when they do it. That's why we can expect false flags to keep happening. That's why we can expect false flag bombings around ICE raids. All these, and I'm telling people, when you see these ICE protests where all these immigrants are showing up in Palestinian flags and Mexican flags saying, "Viva la raza! You're never going to deport me back to the country whose flag I'm literally waving right now, ese! Free Palestine! Go live in Palestine. Viva la Mexico! Go live in Mexico." And the best of it all, the best of all of it, and I love this one, the best is when I see like dark-skinned, really non-European Mexicans, because there are European Mexicans. Especially when you get down to Distrito Federal, which we call Mexico City. I don't think they call it that anymore, but that's what they used to call it when I lived there. And by the way, I'm not a Mexican. I just lived there for work. But you would see a lot of white Mexicans, blonde hair, blue-eyed. They look like Canelo Alvarez, whose real name is Canelo Alvarez Barragan, which is an Irish last name. He descended probably from the San Patricio Battalion. That's during the War of the Alamo. We sent a bunch of Irish people down there, and they liked the Mexicans better because they were Catholic, they partied, they drank whiskey, and they got high. And the Irish said, "Man, screw America, we're going to go be Mexicans now." And they called them the San Patricios Battalion, the St. Patrick's Battalion. But I say that to say, I think it's hilarious. I really think it's hilarious when you go to these ICE protests and you see really dark-skinned Hispanic people, Cubans, Bolivians, Mexicans, especially from the Northern Triangle of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. It's almost fucking comical when you see them wearing a Che Guevara shirt or wearing a Che Guevara beret or waving a Che Guevara flag with his face on it. Because, yes, he was a leader of communism. Yes, he was one of your founding fathers of this hemisphere's socialism. But he was a insufferable racist. If you think Uncle Patty is a racist, then you're going to hate. You Mexican Indios are going to hate Che Guevara when you start to read into his book. You'll take his shirt off, I guarantee you that. He referred to the Indios, the people who were not of Spanish or Portuguese origin in Latin America, as cockroaches. He said you were all cockroaches. He referred to blacks as monkeys. Now, remember, Che Guevara was a doctor. He was a medical doctor. He came from upper-class Argentinian Spaniards. And he went to medical school. And so he bought into the whole Darwinism thing. He bought into the whole evolution, and we all came from certain animals, certain reptilians, certain monkeys, certain hominids, certain Cro-Magnons, certain Neanderthals. And he said that he believed that black people were a step back in genetic evolution, and that Aboriginal Indians of Latin America, Honduras, El Salvador, Argentina, where he was from, were no more than cockroaches. And yet you Hispanics say, Viva la Revolucion, and you wear Che Guevara t-shirts, and you fly a flag of this communist, this socialist, and you say, he's like us, he's fighting for liberation. You would have loved him. You should read his book. You should get to know him. He literally referred to you as cockroaches. But I say all that to say, if you are a right-wing Republican, if you are one of these people who is an accelerationist, just stop it. Don't go to these ICE protests. Don't go to these protests and fight with these people anymore, because what's going to happen? In an age where accelerationists, both on the left and the right, and everybody thinks of us as Republicans as this, one of the senators, I think it was Jamie Raskin, Senator Raskin said yesterday, he said, there are people on the right wing who want a second chance at the American Civil War. They want retribution for losing the American Civil War. Okay. Well, when that kind of accelerationist talk gets thrown around, you know what's going to happen. Reichstag moments are going to happen. People are going to start doing things and blaming people who didn't do them if you don't know what Reichstag moments are. They're going to start blowing up these ICE raids. They're going to start blowing up. You're going to see false flag operations where maybe a CIA agent has infiltrated ICE and then shoots 6, 7, 8, 9 illegal aliens, broadcasts it, then disappears. Some MK Ultra guy mows down 6 or 7 illegal immigrants at one of these things, kills a family, and it gets broadcasted everywhere and it pops it off. You don't want to be around when that happens. You don't want to be at one of these ICE protests when they plant a truck bomb and say another Timothy McVeigh situation happened. For one, you don't want to get blamed for it. You don't want to be guilty by association. You want to flee the very appearance of evil. But at the same time, you don't want to get blown up by one of these things. They're going to portray every one of us the same way they portrayed us after, the same way that Clinton's little faggot ass portrayed us after the McVeigh bombings. Now, I know George Bush was in and behind all that kind of stuff during that time, but Clinton really pushed the anti-gun, anti-Republican, anti-right-wing rhetoric, the confiscate all the automatic weapons, confiscate all the semi-automatic weapons. We got to get these guns off the streets of Chicago. Meanwhile, he is literally a Southern man from Arkansas who murdered children, pretended to be like one of us, and really literally got wrapped up in a sex scheme Israeli blackmail Mossad with Monica Lewinsky. Literally, that did happen. That's all on record. I want you guys to know that I have 30,000 listeners now, generally, about each podcast. When I put out a show, between the time I put it out and a week from that, when that show goes down, I get about 30,000 listeners. And about most of my people are good people. They're right-wing people. They're gun-toting people. They're people who believe in the Bible. They're good Christians. They're people who want the best for this country. And yes, I'm talking to them. Yes, I am talking to you. I come on here for you. I want to install morality and morale into your heart and into your day. And I want to be there with you on your headphones as you go throughout your day. And I want you to be my audience. And yes, I'm talking to you. Yes, I do this for you. But I also do it for you on the left who want this civil war. I want to talk you out of this. I want you to know that you are a loser and you are on the losing side. Listen to me. Listen to me. To you people on the left who think because you're getting a lot of attention and power now, because people are listening to you, because for the first time in your life you feel like you have a little bit of power, you're on a losing team and you are being played like a pawn on a chessboard. Nobody gives a good goddamn about you. And when this shit pops off, you are going to be the frontline pawns in something you don't want to be a part of. And when you can't get your estrogen pills, when you can't get your testosterone replacement therapy, all you transgender people out there, and your hormones start to go out of whack, and your cerebellum starts to fucking shrink, and your cerebral cortex starts to get all overloaded with cortisol, and you start wanting to eat your gun, what do you think's going to happen? You want this now because you've got the power, because when you go out on the streets with the my body, my choice, hands off trans kids, you feel powerful. You feel that virtue signal up again, rise up inside of you. But I'm telling you now, you people on the left, listen to me. You are on a losing team. You are on a losing fucking team. You feel empowered right now because this dark energy is pulling you. It's like the Force in Star Wars, right? Like Yoda said, of course, the path to the dark side is more seducing because it's quicker. It's easier, faster, more seducing, more alluring. You can attain more quicker without the hard work, without the training, without the meditation. Of course, the path to the dark side is more seductive. Yeah, of course it's more seductive. But it's also very destructive because it fills you with hate and anger and fear and all those negative things, all those negative emotions that Yoda warned about. And it fills you with confusion. Like God said through his apostle Paul in the book of Corinthians, God is not the author of confusion. We on the right wing who stand with God, the one true God, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, we know that we stand steadfast upon our firm beliefs in him. And you stand wishy-washy upon this power of the dark side, this political correctness that happens to be riding in on this wave of communism from the East, bought and paid for by Jewish AIPAC money, funded by Israel Mossad agents. You are just a pawn, but you feel powerful right now because you're on this path to the dark side, and it won't be us who consumes and destroys you. We don't want to do this to you. We don't want... Let me tell you what. My people, the people who listen to this show, they're good people. They go to their Little League games. They coach football. They coach volleyball. They love the people around them. They love their neighbors. They love their neighborhoods. They mow their yards. They don't want to throw it all away just because you have nothing in your life worth saving and you pick up a rifle. And you've seen these movies that have been put out here by these media companies like One Battle After Another with Leonardo fucking Lefty DiCaprio. And Sean Penn, this literal stupid communist. I mean, he literally was calling for nuclear weapons use in Ukraine 2 years ago, and he has no idea. No idea about anything. He's just literally stupid. I watched the fucking documentary about Charlie Sheen and how Sean Penn grew up next door neighbor to him, and they were just getting high by the time they were 13 years old on every drug under the sink. He's literally a burnout. He's a lefty burnout trying to stay relevant. And you think because these movies by Paul Thomas Anderson, like One Battle After Another, where it portrays Antifa and Trantifa people burning down ICE facilities and freeing the illegals and killing federal agents and robbing banks in the name of black power. You think that because this movie heroizes you and puts this sense of heroic left-wing energy into you that it is the truth? It is not the truth. The truth is that most of you are losers at this moment. You have wrapped yourself in this identity that your sexuality is all that you are. I am trans. I am non-binary. I'm gay. Hands off trans kids. But you are so much more than that. You are a soul. You are a body ensouled by God with the purpose to serve Him, with the purpose to love Him and love others and serve others. And we can avoid this entire war. We can avoid what's coming, what's in the pipeline. We can be an aversion to this Jewish psyop from Mossad to get you to hate me and me to hate you and me to fight you and you to fight me. We don't have to do it. Cast aside this sick, powerful, dark side energy. Cast it aside. You don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need it. You don't need this energy. And here's the other aspect of things. You think because you get up in these people's faces at these riots. I've seen these riots going on in Portland and in Seattle and in Chicago. And you'll see right-wing Republican people walking down the streets. And someone will get up in his face and he'll say, "Fuck you, you Trump MAGA motherfucker. Fuck you, you right-wing Republican piece of shit. And you fucking, what do they call them? Cisgender motherfucker. You don't know our struggle. You white man. Sit down, white man. Your time is over." And what you want, what you think you want, is for someone to engage with you physically, because there's literally 100 of you out there and there's like one of him and his family. And he doesn't engage with you because he doesn't want to throw away his future. He doesn't want to throw away his time with his children. We live in the time of a Jewish weaponized judiciary system where if you resemble an alpha male Christian man, if you resemble that, then you are going to get punished to the fullest extent of the law. However, if you're Carmelo Anthony and you stab a white kid in the heart and in the throat at a football game, then you can get a slap on the wrist. And $900,000 for your family to get some fried chickens and a new mansion. If you stab the little boy like what happened in St. Louis and get a 35-year prison sentence and some Jewish judge named Cohenstein lets you out after only serving 8 years because you were just too mentally handicapped to comprehend what you'd done. Do you think that the people who mow their yards and go to work and invest in their 401k and uphold good moral values want to throw everything away to fight you, even if they win? Even if they beat you, they're still going to then have to face the judicial system? Do you think that's what they want? But here's the crossroads. Here's the apex. Here's the pinnacle of what we're coming to. And let me be completely honest with you. Let me be completely honest with you. You want trouble. You want a fight. And my daddy used to tell me when I was a boy, he'd say, "Boys, you go out looking for trouble, you're going to find it." Hey, boys. That's what my dad would say. You go out there looking for trouble, boys, and you're going to find it. He didn't say, "Hey, guys, if you go out looking for trouble, you might find it." He didn't say, "Hey, guys, if you go out looking for trouble, there's a possibility that 99 times out of 100, you're going to find it." No, he said, if you go out looking for trouble, you're going to find it every single fucking time. And when we were young, in the streets, acting crazy, being nuts, we'd find trouble. And a lot of times we would find out that we had bit off way more than we could chew. And the trouble we found was a little bit heavier and a little bit too tasty for our appetite. And here you come, Antifa. Here you come, Black Lives Matters. Here you come, left-wing accelerationist revolutionists. Here you come, district attorneys who have been bought up by the George Soros Open Society and pledged to do the devil's work in the court system. All that you wanted is coming to a head, and you're out looking for trouble. You're out looking for trouble. And like Dad always said, son, if you go out looking for trouble, believe me when I tell you, you gonna find it. And all you Antifa, all you Trantifa, all you people on the left who want this American Civil War to pop off, I'm telling you, we don't want that. You don't want that. But it's coming to the point. And it reminds me of that old scene with George Jones. You know, the Silver Fox George Jones, and I'm getting riled up when I'm thinking about it now. I'm getting riled up when I'm thinking about Irina Zaruska and Austin Metcalf and Charlie Kirk and all these people who have been sacrificed at the altar of your bullshit, who have been laid down as a sacrifice at the altar of your nonsense. What I'm saying now is, I feel like that scene at the dinner table with Tammy Wynette and George Jones when he's in there with Tammy Wynette's first husband. And he said, "You want to fuck my wife, don't you, George Jones?" I feel like Antifa's sitting across the table poking at us. And they're asking us, "You want to fight, don't you, Republicans?" I feel like Antifa's sitting across that fucking table like Tammy Wynette's abusive alcoholic husband. And he's saying, "You want to fuck my wife, don't you, George Jones? You want to get in a fight, don't you, right-wing Republicans? Gun-toting Republicans?" You remember what George Jones said back to him? He said, "Don, I sure would like to. I sure would like to." This is the American Sentinel. My name is Patty Ramsey. And you are tuned in to the Second American Revolution. The chair is on the wall. The chair is on the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. The chair is on the wall. The chair is on the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache.
People caught and held Carrillo, but not before he'd scrawled "Boog" and stopped the duality in his own blood on the bonnet of a vehicle he'd carjacked.
The Boogaloo term is used by extremists to reference a violent uprising or or impending civil war in the United States.
It's Boogaloo time. If we all stood together just one day, we could take this country back.
Often sporting Hawaiian
Many far-right Facebook groups are able to exploit loopholes in the platform's anti-violence policies. It identified 125 groups using Boogaloo to suggest civil war is coming. Another derivation of Boogaloo is Big Luau.
What is the Big Boogaloo? The Big Boogaloo? Get you some of this, Tri-Coms? What is the Big Igloo or the Big Boogaloo?
A luau is the Hawaiian feast where pigs are roasted. This is an apparent reference to the group's hatred of the police, hence the Hawaiian shirts. Those shirts, along with combat gear and guns, have become a uniform, signaling the wearer is prepared for war.
Shabbat shalom, baby. Won't you Shabbat shalom with me under the old banana tree? Whoa, oh my, sweet Tel Avivian lamb's bread. My heart can act as an ammonia, and you'll never ever say get back. No, no, oh. Toda mama, toda mama, toda mama, toda mama, toda mama, toda mama, toda, toda. Toda mama, toda mama, toda mama, toda mama, toda mama, toda mama, toda, toda. All the signals that I'm sending, I'll keep sending them, and on the constant Jillian time, I'll make you mine. Yes, I swear I will. Yours, sweet supple breast, our golden ghetto, soft statues in stilettos, two wise men instead of three. Very stressful. I'm ever in a foul mood. I gotta see you in your town mood, and so happy it makes me. You wanna know who wrote the book of Job?
Oh, hello. Patty here from the American Sentinel. I'd like to talk to you this evening about mud sharking.
The Patty Ramsey Show, starring Patty Ramsey, filmed in front of a live studio audience. Brought to you by Pfizer.
I'd like to take a moment this afternoon to talk to you about the dangers of mud sharking, coal burning. Do you think Jamarcus is going to help you pay the toll? We all know that Aiden is your world or Jamarcus Jr. is your king, but don't expect some white kid to help you pay the toll when you've burned the coal. Listen, white girls, you're going to thank me. You're going to look back and you're going to say, yeah, I'm glad I listened to Patty Ramsey. Because I don't have a little Jamarcus hanging on my hip, and I don't have a Tinder profile that says, I'm waiting for a real man to step up and help me take care of my king, Aiden. You're going to consider yourself lucky when you don't have a little tarantula head who gets convicted at 14 of neighborhood violence or robbery or carjacking, who wasn't born with a chip on his shoulder. You're going to thank me when you're not single at 28 years old with a black eye and a kid that no one wants to help you take care of. But mud sharking is an epidemic within the white girl community, and white men, you have to know, even if she doesn't have a baby, you gotta know if she's mud sharked, if she's coal burned, if she went black and never went back. We need some kind of database. I think American Sentinel, I think we need to get together and create some kind of database for every girl we know who's been a coal burner, who's been a fucking a Negro troll, a fucking a Jamarcus lover, a fucking a mud shark. We need to create a database for every mud shark, girl. It should be www.mudsharklist.com. I think I'm going to get right on that. I think I'm going to start working on that.
like Hennessy, like Hennessy.
Then there's one simple tip and one simple trick to get away with anything you want to get away with while claiming to be the victim. Would you gas me? Would you gas me? I'd gas me.
What did they say? Oh yeah, they tried to fucking dox me, and they ended up doxing my brother. That's me having a trollgasm. Oh, daddy! Trolling on these fucking cunts. Oh my god, dude. Jamarcus. You gotta fucking, what else could you do, man?
This is the American Sentinel State of the Union Address.
Damn, son, that's good media.
In this show, we're going to dive into where we are now as a country and as a society at large and how we seem to have gotten to this place. So let's kick it off. In 1913, the Federal Reserve begins. Before that, we didn't have an international cabal controlling our banking system, buying up politicians, buying up land, indebting our people, and creating usury to enslave the masses. We also did not have federal income tax system where they basically sent you off to work and then stole a portion of your money each year. The Federal Reserve was put into place by a couple of international Jews. You should read the book The Devil at Jekyll Island. During this time, a man named Paul Morowitz Warburg, a German-born Jewish banker, was instrumental in designing the Federal Reserve System and served as its vice governor from 1914, the year after it was founded, to 1918. Max Morowitz Warburg was Paul's brother and the chief financial advisor for the leading German bank during this period. So what happened in 1913? We set up the Federal Reserve. We also set up a federal income tax system. The very next year, in 1914, we get pulled into World War I. We, Americans, under the Federal Reserve, Paul Morowitz Warburg, are fighting the Germans, whose brother is Max Warburg, in charge of their Federal Reserve. So millions of white men, Europeans from all over the world, are called to the battlefields of Europe to feed each other to the meat grinder once again on behalf of Jewish money and international power interests. After Germany, they had the Treaty of Versailles. The Germans were put into a state of constant enslavement. All the Jews came in, they raked up everything. If you want to know more about it, please go check out Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. Even if you're not an anti-Semite, even if you're not a neo-Nazi or a Nazi, then this is a very good book to look at historically to understand what happened. You should also look at Patriots and Pinheads, or Pinheads to Patriots, by Bill O'Reilly. He talks very, very much in depth and gives a good history of international Judaism and how it came to be at this time, the cabal, the international banking, all those kinds of things. So Hitler rises to power, seizes control of all